So you guys got to realize, if you're going to work in a mercury mine, you have to detox every day. At least 5 days a week, you should be thinking about 4 or 5 days a week of detox. And then you will be doing a much better job. You'll be making better judgments. The fear will subside. And the fear is a big thing. That comes out of the root of toxicity as well.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, please.
One thing you'll be very mindful of is that you get 2 groups of patients watching your office. You're going to have one group of patients that has absolutely no idea what bullshit dentistry is about. Even though they didn't come to you specifically for that, you still have the obligation to present a little bit of education to them and some information to help them make a decision. Then you're going to have the other people who are, like I say, they're on the bus. They want to office, they're already on the bus. They've already heard from somebody. My root canal's probably toxic, but the feelings in my mouth aren't healthy instead. And the metabolism of mercury and the way it's partitioned in the body is unlike any other toxin. You can't take some blood and say, okay, here's so much sugars in my blood, here's so much iron in my blood. Mercury doesn't work that way. It locks onto the organs that have the highest metabolic activity, which are the brain, the liver, the kidneys, and all those other things. So what I tell patients is, do you have any questions about these mercury buildings that are in your mouth? And I've got a picture of the yuckiest looking one up on the screen. And if they say, oh no, I went to get them out, and this is what I came here for, then you go down one script with that patient. If they say, no, I had no idea these had mercury buildings now, then you have to go down another totally different script. And in North Carolina, I think all the other states, we are obligated as the informed intermediary between the dental manufacturer and the patient to inform them about everything. So I tell them, I'm not the one to put these mercury buildings in your teeth, but it's my obligation as your dentist to tell you what they're made out of. Okay? And sometimes I'll show them smoking tooth. I explained to them that amalgam is a solid suspension, it's not an alloy. And as a solid suspension, each of the metals in that mixture maintains its own individual chemistry. And since you've got mercury, I tell them it's like Jell-O with fruit floating. The Jell-O is the mercury, and the fruit is the tin, copper, silver, and zinc that's in suspension. Since these different metals react, that's why they turn black, that's when they get pits. And as they expand and contract, that's why you get these little cracks on the outside. That opens up a new conversation like, well, maybe I might need to get them out. And I say, you know, this is the safe way of doing it. I do picture menus in my office. I've got pictures of the air cleaner, I've got pictures of me dressed up. I got my hands back here. It's just like a picture menu at McDonald's. And I hand that. This is how we do this. And then they can take it home and show it to their spouse. You know, the spouse has to approve of it 9 times out of 10. I also explained to them the metabolism of mercury, that you have this environmental exposure that you're exposed to. This is how much your body is exposed to. And you have this absorbed dose. This is how much your body is absorbing. Squeeze on the sponge and soak it up. Then you have this thing called an excretory rate. How quickly does the liver get rid of? 85% of the mercury comes out through the liver. The other 15% comes out through your skin, your oil glands, and then your hair follicles. So I stress to you, you have to have a good alkaline diet. You have to have 1 or 2 good healthy bowel movements a day because it comes out through your food. It's going to be your pee. Take some good antioxidants, but not heavy doses of vitamin C before you come to the office because it's a little harder to get you numb. You just took 2 grams of vitamin C before you went to the office. So the difference between what your body's absorbed, what your body's excreted is what's known as the body burden, and that's a very hard thing to determine. We tell folks the mercury test that everybody has. It's like walking up to an apple tree and shake the apple tree and sometimes it's fall down on the ground. When you count those apples and now you try to figure out how many are up in the tree. So mercury testing is an indirect test. It's not like mercury. Everybody has what's called phenotypical difference in all. What Mark said is phenotype. They're not, but the main phenotype is APOE, APOE. If you're APOE2, your liver makes lots of glutathione. And glutathione is the intracellular chemical that binds onto mercury and presents it to the immune system for excretion. So if APO2, you're making loads and loads of mercury, you can be a dentist and breathe the stuff all day long. It's fun to get sick. Then all the variants is 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. 3-4, and then call it 4-4. APOE 4-4 people make almost nothing to say with the bias. And these are the dentists who, and we've already had one, I remember she's actually 6 years ago. She'd already developed a neuromuscular tremor just being in the scan. They've all kind of had similar stories.
Just ask, so I didn't know, I've been doing smart for like, I didn't know if you clean up after you take all the number out.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't know how big the amount is going to get. So what is like, how many amalgams, if there's, okay, 4 amalgams, maybe you do all those, but what if there were 12?
You partition them up into quadrants, so one half of them out, the other half of them
So you just like do a quadrant 2 at a time, depending on.
It just depends on you and the patient, what you decide. I mean, most of my patients travel at least an hour or more. So,
you have to do it all for some.
some people come, I usually the preference, even if they're closer, they want to do a half a day. I get them in the morning or the afternoon. And we do as much as we can. And I don't promise them anything because of exactly what you pointed out. You get in there and it's like, oh my God, this is going to take me. I go slow, I use 8 power loops and I like just every little intricate thing. So it takes me a long time to do my work. And I say, we're going to try to do 4, or we're going to try to do 5, and if we don't get it done, that's the best I can do. I said, or I can offer you the rush job. No one's taking me up for the rush job. I want to do it. I'm like, all right, come on, let me test, And so yeah, you just have to decide what you, and so we charge per visit in my office, per visit mercury removal. And so people then want to get more done at one time. It's more production for you as far as that goes. Once you put all the stuff on, you don't want to take it off anyway. It's just like, let's just drill this junk out of here.
But is there like a bigger bird with 12 on them?
I think you're doing good isolation. Once you get practice that smart, you're doing pretty darn good isolation. I give them my detox. I suggest highly that they are already starting to take the whole protocol at least a week ahead of time, so that their blood is now ready for anything that we don't. And if you're good at isolation, as you will work to be, like everyone else, making sure your seals are there, then no, I'm not a subscriber to the Hal Huggins theory of this kind of pattern of removal. This is a theory. Some people are Huggins people, and if you want to do that, fine, but remember, it's not, all of that stuff is not scientific. It's just proposed that, you measure the current, and then you go this one first, and that one second, you wait 21 days before you do, never cross the midline. That's all stuff that was said. That was never ever tested. So I do not follow that. I do not see any problem. And we've talked about this, the guys that have been doing it for a long time, and I've never heard of any kind of difference between when you do this stuff. Now, that's the way you have to decide. I mean, the whole bottom line is, for you, it's very simple. You have to form some opinions and some methods. It's going to be the mercury, the fluoride, the root canal, the capitations. How do I think about it, and how am I going to help my patient for that? The patients that we get are typically very educated. They're coming to you, they've read a bunch of stuff, and they expect you to address those topics. All right? When I first started, I thought the IAOMT was all wet with the fluoride thing, so I kept doing fluoride for a year, and I know I lost some patients because of fluoride. And then I didn't really get the whole metal thing, so the mercury, fine, I got it, but I'm still doing cobalt partials for them, and I lost patients, because they knew better. They're like, what's this? And I wasn't really prepared, so you have to at least have a stance and be able to discuss it, because they expect that you're going to discuss it, you know? Go ahead. Yes.
So when you're, like, we're not to the point yet, where we're not getting those patients that are educated, we're just getting patients off the street. So what is the communication, like when you're going through that transition, what's the communication with those patients who don't necessarily care if they have a bunch of problems?
I bought 2 practices. Wait a minute, I bought 3 practices. So, and they were all the Mercury practices, you know. And so a lot of those people left me at that point. But I came back all of a sudden when I realized how sick I was and why, and just started saying to people like, okay, I've learned something, and I think that these mercury fillings can be a problem, and if you ever want to talk about it, you know, I've learned and I can tell you about it. But first we have to learn ourselves. So, it's my obligation now that I know it's poison, I know that they have a thyroid issue, I know that they have leaky gut, I know that they have this chronic problem, and I know in my mind that that's why it is, but I do not tell them like, oh, you know your thyroid problem is coming from your fillings. Never. It's like, if you're interested to talk about it, if you ever want to, perhaps we can discuss getting them out safely. The most important thing, becoming smart certified. You put that up on the wall, you do the big poster, that starts the conversation. But I still have people that have mercury, you know, that come to me because they love my hygienist, and certainly not me. But that's fine, you know. And each time I see them, they've been coming to me for 10 years with a new practice, and I say, oh yeah, you got a hip problem, all that seepers, you know. Remember I said, you know, you got this root canal and that gold crown on top of it, all those mercury fillings. I think that's probably something to do with that, but if the ADA calls, I never said anything. I walk out the room. And but I have that relationship with my patients. And they laugh, or guess what, after 2 or 3 years, they might want to talk about it. But if they don't, that's fine. You don't have to do it. You know, I'm clean. Yes.
How do you, because I've been in practice 20 years in the same place, and now I'm switching, and I understand I'm doing it for me, first off, because I've got to get healthy, but I'm taking out a lot of old now. I've replaced them after 20 years, but I'm taking out a lot of old ones. How do you get a patient that you've got that long-term relationship that you haven't been doing it on, and now all of a sudden I'm going to charge you more, I'm going to, doing it for a different reason. How do you get that? Because what if they say, I don't want to, I don't want to pay this fee, or I don't want to do that?
It's a huge paradigm shift. I live in Western North Carolina, and it is like the tree hugger capital of the country, east of Mississippi. And I just had patients walking in the door saying, you put a rubber dam on and take my rubber filling. And I'm like, well, why don't we do that? It's trapped in the thing. This was 20 years ago. And they said, well, you need to do some research yourself because it does come out. And then I went to my first meeting in Kansas City almost 20 years ago now. And what I did when I came back and I said, hey, I just went to some holistic dental courses. I learned a lot. I didn't realize how toxic some of the dental materials are. And this is just a new paradigm shift for office. This is the direction we want to head. Not only to make it safer for me and my staff, but to make it safer for my patients as well. And I'd like to answer your kind of questions at the same time. When you do your root removal, do it all at one time, get it over with. Don't lollygag and do number 19 and then clean that up, and 20 minutes later, now you're doing number 22. Get them done wherever you're going to take the mercury out. Do it all at one time. Use your adequate protection. And on the patient drape, the big thing that we have on the patient's chest, everything that's contaminated, put it right on top of that and roll it up and put it in a separate trash container, not the one in your lab where your hygienist walks into everything and doesn't throw something away, because your general trash will be contaminated. You can see your mercury contaminated stuff. Anything that's got a little gray stain on it, like the patient did, when we take our mercury analyzer and I stick it on that little gray stain where you're wiping your ear off all the time, it reads like 500 to 600 micrograms per cubic meter. And 10 micrograms per cubic meter is the evacuation number we have to leave the building. Okay. We were working in the office one day, and my assistants worked with me for 25 years, and I said, Carmen, I I wonder, even with all this protection on, how much is hit before? She said, oh, that's on down. So I took a dry Swiffer pad. After we took out about 3 amalgams, and we put the dry Swiffer pad on the thing, we just Swiffer the floor with it dry. And I stuck it in a baggie. And then in my closet, where everybody can see, there's a big glass door, you can see the Mercury sniffer, and we stuck the hose under that dry Swiffer, and it read about 250 micrograms. What we do is we not only do the cover, the rubber dam, but there's a cream called Mercury-X. It's a white cream. You paint that cream all over your rubber dam, and it makes the rubber dam act like fly paper, so that you don't get so much to hit the floor. And as I'm putting the protection on, I think in my brain, benefit, 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 as I talk to the patient. Benefit of using the rubber dam is to keep it from swallowing. Benefit of me putting this cream on here is so it'll trap it, don't neutralize it. Benefit of putting the drape is to keep it from getting on your clothes so you don't take it home in the car. And we've discovered this particles out gas for 6 hours later. So it's not something that goes away real quick.
And you've been in practice 20 years, so your patients are your friends, they know.
Yeah.
You just get excited.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I learned something, and I know that I have some suffering, some illnesses and things, and I realize that we have a problem there, and I'm changing the way I do things. You can keep doing what you want, but we're recommending that we should start looking at the mouth as maybe a source of toxicity. And if they want to talk about it, they do. If they don't, they laugh, and I say my ramblings, and then I walk away, and then my hygienist patches it up, So it's more about just talking straightforward to them.
Let me finish my thought real quick because I don't want to leave you hanging.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In order to neutralize what hits the floor, now we use this spray called Mercon spray. And you go to Mercon.com, and we put the dry Swiffer on the Swiffer pad, screw it the whole time.
Yeah, the floor problem.
And then,
talk about it.
yeah, and then neutralize what hits the floor. But you don't want to put too much Mercon because it'll make your floor.
What do you think, so, like with your patients, like what do you think if they don't want to pay for your protocol? That you just protect yourself, and I always do, I kind of call it smart life, because you're not paying for it. Unprotected, is that legitimate?
No, you never, right, if you're smart certified, it's your obligation to just agree that you will use this all the time. There's no alternative. Your patient doesn't want it, I'm sorry, there's an office down the street that does Mercury, but this is part of it. For me, I don't charge too much. I think it's $135 per visit for the Mercury. I've got a very expensive dual composite practice compared to other people because I spend all that crazy time doing this stuff, and I know it's good. But if you don't want the quality and I'm very proud of what I do, then I'm sorry I can't help you. We should you can't help everything. Yes.
I was going to ask a question about the dental hygienist. You mentioned that in your practice there are patients that have old mercury fillings and they don't care to have them removed.
Yes.
But they still come under cleaning.
Yes.
Well, what I understand what I learned was that just polishing them is going to release mercury.
We don't ever do that.
So that's what I was going to ask is the hygienist.
You don't ever polish.
So when they're polishing the teeth, they don't.
No. You stay away from that.
Okay.
If you're doing air polish, you stay away from that.
Okay.
And if you run I don't have much say. My wife is my hygienist.
Okay.
But, I would say, when I was polishing those people's teeth, I'd say, okay, I'm not going to polish this tooth because it's got mercury in it.
Oh.
And then you're just putting a little seed there. But no, never touch that filling. It's coming off mercury. That makes it worse.
Release it too?
Yeah, you stay away from it. When people find, oh, there's another mercury, I'm skipping that too. And I'll scale it, but I'm not touching it, because every time you eat, every time the temperature changes, it increases. You polish that thing, and now you have brought liquid mercury to the surface. And now you're actually causing him or her problems for who knows how long before it oxidizes again. It kind of subsides the amount from it. So I think that, and it's not just mercury. All metals should be removed from the mouth. And this is always the hardest part for for me, and it used to be, until I started learning about the problems with all the different metals, and gold being the worst, the most electronegative metal in the mouth. And at the time when I came from into the academy, I was probably doing 50% gold crowns in my office, and then now, you know, the ones that are still in there, like checking the back page of the paper, like, you know, where are they? You know, like, oh my God. But no, it's a great business. You know, we make money putting them in the first time, we make money putting them in the second time. And that's how, what are you going to do? I mean, you be fair with your patients, you know, if you just put it in and now realize like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that, and you say, I'll do this no charge so that I can sleep better this week, they love you for that, you know. It's not, they don't hate you.
I'm going to add a caveat to what Oz just said. What I'll typically do if there's 8 or 10 amalgams in the mouth is I will treatment plan just for the amalgams and say this is what's going to get the big chunk of toxin, you know, out of your mouth. We send our patients home with color photographs of all their teeth from digital camera, and if you're not doing that, you know, you're going to spend so much more time just explaining. We take pictures of the PFMs around the gum tissue with the gums reacting and changing color. And I say, you know, the more this gum changes its color, the more likely there's mercury underneath this crown. If you're interested in getting metal-free after you're mercury-free, this is what it's going to cost to get your PFMs and your milligrams out. You don't have to put it all in the treatment plan up front, because you may scare away another 25–30%.
So you can just put the build-ups in that thing?
No, with Cerac, I don't usually
Oh, you use it.
I don't use Cerac build up on my Ceracs. And I do a lot of combo cases. I take a whole quadrant out at one time. I prep my crowns. I do my gingivectomy with the laser. I go ahead and scan it, and then while the crown's milling, I do the composites. And then, so I do most of my stuff is combo cases where I do the Cerac and direct composites in the same form. But I just wanted to elaborate on what Waj just said, because it is important to make the patient metal free if that's the route they want to go, because the farther apart the metals are on the periodic table, and I do a lot of hand gestures with the patient, the farther apart these metals are on the periodic table, the more electrical potential there is between them, the more it's going to affect their immune system. So you have to read your patient's body language. And sometimes I'll just do, this is what the cost is to get you mercury-free, this is what it costs you to get you metal-free. And if they say, oh, I'm going to do it all the time, then it's like, okay. You just change the combo, and I charge $425 and the time to take out mercury, and I'll sometimes present big cases in 4 treatment plans, quadrant. And then my financial assistant will say, you know, you can save about $800 if you just do one side at a time, and you don't have to take so much time off from work. And guess what? 80% will say, oh yeah, let's just do half an hour at a time instead of one. So that's called cognitive dissonance. You can use that with and it makes you more productive.
Yeah, I mean, you need to charge a fee. We're throwing away a lot of stuff. We take a lot of time. It takes longer to do things. And so there needs to be a fee. I mean, I started with $35, and I realized, no, now I'm $135. I'm probably still low. Some people charge per tooth. Some people charge up to $300 per visit for mercury removal. But you've got to charge a fee because it costs you to do this. And I actually was a little shy about it. Like I started at $35. I have never once had one person complain about it. If they understand the mercury problem, they understand that there needs to be a fee to get rid of all the junk. And don't be shy about charging adequately for per visit mercury removal on top of your restorative fee. When you do it, the most Maddie had, they measured, and probably the most beneficial thing is the IQ Air or the Air Vac. And so now I'm up to 2 of them at once, and I don't know if we could fit 5 of them here. We'd probably be better off. But you know, we look like this, and then you can. It's suggested that when you finish the mercury removal, you take the rubber dam off, you clean everything off, and then you put it all back together, and then you do your whatever you're doing, you know. But for most of the time, isolation is very difficult. If you know you have good isolation, for me, I just go right to finish. There's mercury in the room. I generally will leave my gear on even when I'm doing my composite and my respiration part of it, because we know what, a couple of minutes it hangs in the room, right?
15 minutes.
15 minutes after you cut, it's still, when the room is raised level, so be aware that it's not gone when you're done with drilling. Plus it's on everything, so you have that problem. And I didn't think you guys probably been pounded with mercury information, so I didn't think I have to say too much. The worst situation, gold. Gold with any other metal in the mouth is the most, the largest galvanic current. And galvanism, when you cut out an amalgam and you see that floor of the tooth is black, we have a study that I had recently had our friend Hans Leckner interpret for us in Germany. They did study with gold and with mercury underneath, and it actually, what's happening with in this galvanism is it's driving it into the bone directly. It's not off-gassing. It's actually driving the mercury in the metals into the bone, and it's even in a JADA research article from 48.
Stepping back just a little bit, as far as the hanging in the air, several people had like an ion generator. They said would drop that out. Does that reduce that time that's hanging in the air?
Well, there's this new generator fellow here that I talked with about a year ago, and now they've redesigned. And so I told him we took this ion generator off because we didn't have the science. And he said he said, what do you want for science? I said, well, ideally you drill some mannequin, you turn your machine on, and you show us a reduction. And when we get that, it'll become part of SMART.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the ion generator. It doesn't, we don't think it hurts anything. But the problem we had is they didn't have any hard science on it.
Okay.
You know?
When we did our study about 7 years ago, we used a mannequin, and we drilled out 100 triple spill amalgams. We had everything turned on, and we measured on the mannequin's chest, on Dr. Joe Palmer's knee, who's my assistant. We did swabs there. We did swabs on the mask, on my mask, on the assistant's mask. We did 5 swabs on the patient's chest, 2 here, on the abdomen, and on the knee. And when we turned the ion generator off, it made no difference whatsoever. That was the first thing we turned off. Then the biggest thing was the IQ error. As soon as the IQ error goes off, then the numbers go. When you're drilling high and dry, we got numbers as high as 1,800, 2,500 micrograms per TPG. So,
Like that was one of my questions. It's going to be an investment. You can't do it all at once. So IQ air, room air, filtration with a carbon filter to get that, and then like I said, maybe glass, the ion. Is that? Am I thinking?
that's right.
Is that what the data?
Yes, I think, but if you're going to be SMART certified, you need to have this equipment.
Right.
The other stuff is alternative.
Okay.
So, and then when you mentioned IQ air versus air bath, who was here,
Right.
the IQ air footprint, you have to know that the footprint is huge. And then this air bath, which had IQ air, we've always loved it. I'm going to say this guy's little machine where you can just wheel it, and especially if you want to wheel room to room, that machine probably is going to fit better in a small operating.
The average particle size is 1 micrometer in diameter. A human hair is 85 micrometers in diameter. And so these particles hang in the air for about 15 minutes. And Dr. Richardson did a research project. So you have to leave your air.
So you can't you don't want patient information, you want the room somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So I've been an endodontist for a decade, and I work out of 2 offices. One smart office, really smart, and then one that's a 30-year-old practice with carpet. I notice I get tremors when I go to work there. Is it even possible for me to, as an endodontist, I know I have other questions about that, but that's why I'm here to learn more. I'm already but not at that other office. I got a back, I'm going to install that at the other office. I have the air filter in the other office. I have the gas mask in the other
Are you the only one working in there?
I'm the only endodontist, but no, there's general dentistry.
So I wish I had it in my pull up. You take a piece of paper, you draw a cat. This is a picture of a cat. And this is also my 2-week notice. You don't want to talk to them about it, unless you know them personally that they're open to it, you can't go in there and work, girl. Your body's telling you, you just can't, I'm sorry.
It was my college practice. I was
Yeah.
in that practice when I was 5 years old.
You should have kept 51%, so you could have told them.
But I would set up a room innuendo as a safe room
That's what I'm trying to do.
and just say, this is what I learned about taking out an album and protect yourself, protect that patient with the earthly resource and your access.
And I don't have these personal relationships with these patients, I'm literally just meeting them that day, so.
But you're doing endo in one room and some other doctor in the next room is drilling
Kind of
mercury.
far away, but yeah.
It's not that far as you think when you start measuring. So that is the problem. Unless you can isolate yourself and then never come out until the end of the day, put a window so you can wave at them and say, but no, I'm sorry, you're sucking mercury and there's no two ways about it. Even if you put it back in there, you're in that office, it's nasty if you're drilling that mercury, really. And you're a good witness. We should get you up and say, yeah, when they drill mercury, I go there, I shave.
Yeah, but as soon as I walk in,
Yeah, because you're sucking up.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, because you're already toxic, the pail is full, and you get a little bit more, and I had somebody else tell me about that. It's a similar kind of thing, that they realized that they were going to work in this office that wasn't smart, and they were like, and that day they were crazy,
Did you educate the other dentists?
slowly I'm introducing it. He's a family friend. He was, my dad, but when he passed away, so was him, because he knew him.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure.
he's maybe
Open up a
that
conversation.
would be better. We gotta have a conversation, or you gotta have a new office. Take care of yourself. You can't help people if you don't help yourself.
I would just ask, air purifiers and other besides the IQ.
Oh, yeah.
Right in the hospital, about doctor's office, reception.
As many as you could afford.
And
You can buy those floss filters, they're here. And they're canister jobs, you can get the little ones, I have those scattered around. And then you can get the big giant one, and then like Maddie mentioned, you just leave your IQ. I have those two, then I have another, the other one, Faust makes another one with an elephant trunk that's huge, but it doesn't have flex, it just lays. I have that one draped over my autoclave area, and that runs 24/7. And the other ones I run, like Maddie said, just leave them on. When you're done, you leave them on and get out of the room because it's kind of loud in there, But
We measure the air in 8 different rooms. So I have 3 up front in my administration, and then I've got 5 in each of the operating rooms. And so if I don't tell the machine, I want you to smell room number 1 for the next hour, which is what we do while we're working in room number 1. If I don't have it set up that way, the machine measures 1 minute out of each data set, out of each data point. So you can just see the machine going tick, 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 tick as we're going from room to room. And as long as you're keeping your IQ errors running in the room you're working in, I don't see any numbers above 10. So the patients can sit there and look at the screen while they're working. But the hygiene rooms and the administrative rooms, I just don't see those.
you had a question?
Yeah, when you're having these conversations with your patient, what's a good source to direct them to? You want to go learn more, like IAOMT, is it got patient friendly?
On our website, we have the most awesome library and position papers with maybe a million, not a million, but 1,000 citations, if they're that time. The other thing that you can do is have access to all of our old meeting lectures, and if you're a learner by lecture, like me, because I became unable to read because I was so sick, I want to see a lecture. And so I send my patient every night after work, I would say, any new patient, I talk to them, I'm like, okay, here's a lecture. You want to see a lecture on it? I give them one of Boyd's original lectures. Those are good ways for you to learn, is go to the library or go to the website and look at the lectures and start accumulating information that you can share. I have very important one, Steve Carell's galvanism little video that I share with people when I'm trying to explain to them about galvanic activity, the potato clock. Very, very important video to share and have. And potato clock, you can get it on YouTube, but that's how I myself show my patients, you know. And these people who want to sell me the internet really bad. So the galvanic thing is something that I'm actually trying to develop a more intense lecture on it because it's fascinating. And I would say when you start to look at your teeth when you're doing metal removal, you're going to see that the current goes in a certain direction, and that part of the tooth is all black because it's drawing the metals into that. And you'll see sometimes you have the box next to the tooth with another metal filling or crown is all black, and the other part of the tooth is white. And it's like, no, it wasn't leaking. It wasn't leaking. It was actually caused by the current flow. Then if you want to really see something fascinating about galvanic activity, this Melisa, you guys are aware of what Melisa is? Melisa is what you can do for your patient or have a physician do for you, take a blood draw. You have to get it within 48 hours to Germany. At this point I'm saying it might be the only valid blood test we have for metal. So if you think that your patient, or you want to clear, your patient really is a little bit skeptical, but you say you think that your patient is having a health problem that might be because she has 4 different kinds of metal crowns, Rexilium, it's heavy nickel. They all have palladium. The new nickel is palladium. And people are reacting to this and chronic inflammation. You can do a Melisa and see if they actually are reacting to that. And so that they have this. They had a conference. Vera, who developed the testing, passed away a year ago. They had a conference, a recent conference in London, and it's like $35 to download. You guys are going to be like fascinated by the stories that come from these orthopedic surgeons, and where prosthesis, even a screw in the foot with gold or with metal in the mouth, the galvanic activity is actually causing. I mean, what did I do in Jerry? And proof is when they take out the mercury or the metal in the mouth, it gets up and walks. So we can't script these things. It's like, so the stories that you see there, you realize the potential. So now I ask every one of my patients, you don't have any, like, the ones that want to keep their metal in their mouth, like, you don't have any, like, screws or anything in your body, right? Or if my patient is going for a hip transplant because they wouldn't listen to me and I know that they're whatever, I say, you might really consider getting the metal out before you go get this hip transplant, because it actually, its galvanism is very, very real. It's worse than we even know, and I think the academy should maybe concentrate more on educating people on how severe it is, because you watch this conference and you'll come back and go, hey, I know more than you guys.
There's another test too that I have done in my area. Some people call it electronic acupuncture test. There's the name of the one girl that does it for me is called a Zytoscan. And she goes along the acupuncture wounds on the back of the hand, and she prints me out a report and shows me which teeth are stressed. And 95% of the time, you look at the Zytoscan, tooth number 14, and there's a root canal or gold crown on it. Tooth number 14. So.
Who does that? Is it like a acupuncture that would do it?
Yeah, there's some people in my area, since we got so many tree huggers, they call themselves health professionals and they just do this scan for them. I've done about 300.
Yeah, some of the people in the academy choose to use this is what we would call holistic. And I'm very open to it, but I stick to, I call myself Biologic, so I'm not like doing any muscle testing or what have you, but if you want to do it, but be aware that, you know, we don't have the science on it yet, you know.
And I think you never want to put in the chart, remove Mercury from 2014 due to the science.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Because as soon as the state board reviews that, and able to state, you know, here's my license, you might as well stand it.
What about orthodontic metal?
Yeah, you got a problem with orthodontic metal. It's that the wire is nickel. The brackets, if you're allowed, I don't allow, my patients don't get metal brackets because the galvanic problem is that. And I'm pretty sure that this white decals, because they didn't floss, they didn't brush for a while, it's because of the galvanic activity actually is decalcifying the tooth around the brackets. Some people, for some reason, in that old JADA article, maybe there was something that was good about it, is some people seem not to have so much galvanic activity going into their cheek or the vestibule, and those people are the kids that maybe have this whole wiring and they make it this white. But most people, it seems like the majority to me, they end up with some white stuff on their teeth that looks like fluorosis almost. It's from the galvanic activity. So you put plastic or ceramic brackets because you got to have a nickel wire. And watch, because if the child starts reacting to nickel, it can be behavior problems, it can be acne, severe acne, and it can be things like that. Always be suspicious. I tell my people, but in my practice, as you come, these people who are biologic minded kind of don't want to do ortho anymore because there's this belief that your body forms in a certain way and you don't want to move teeth. I used to do a lot of Invisalign, I hardly do it now, but yeah, be aware of the galvanism. That can be a problem in the nickel.
Orthodontist is going to say, no, there's no nickel coming off this wire. But when it was tested by the orthodontic groups, they usually still the water to measure. Dr. Jess Clifford, who was here,
He was here, his son was at the booth.
So Dr. Clifford does the Clifford sensitivity test, which tests almost 3,000 different dental materials. They went ahead and made artificial saliva. They took mucopolysaccharides and proteins and all this stuff and tested the nighttime wiring. It was tons of nickel.
Yes.
What are your preferred materials for something like for a pediatric banded loop space maintainer sort of thing instead of the metal, and for a removable partial that has any kind of stability and support?
Partial is Flexite. The only thing I know of, the best material I know is Flexite. You need to have a lab that will provide you with the Flexite partial. For space maintainers, I honestly don't know. I don't really have that many children that I treat. So I would be, you're going to probably have to use some metal there. Maybe you can come up with some innovative, like put a line of composite across there to just keep the space. I would do that. I mean, I do kind of stuff. If it doesn't work, well, I'm sorry, okay, you know. But you might have to use a band, especially in my case where, and I tell my patients, yeah, like, be aware that there's metal there. If we have any kind of issues, we might want to have to take it out. I've got a patient right now, she just said, no, we'll just take our chances. Like, we don't need to put any metal in my child. And most of them are educated. They don't want metal. It's you that have to realize that you need to communicate.
Yeah. Do you happen to know something like orthotane? If you have that same patient wearing something like orthotane while the tooth is missing, waiting for the permanent tooth to erupt, is that going to help hold the space?
Orthotane?
Orthotane,
I don't know.
nipped in here,
You know
so
what, I
it's,
actually use it all the time.
Yeah.
It will hold spaces if the patient's wearing it. And usually if they have the space, I mean, I've definitely not put a space maintainer in. And it just depends. If they're not aware, it's just not.
What's it orthotane?
You know what? It's They Were Here. It's Healthy Start. It's actually it's great. You could use it to it's like it's the rubber appliance that you use to not have braces. I mean, I've been using it for 10 years.
it helps to influence the growth of the tooth.
Yeah, it's a functional rubber.
Yes, that's right. I didn't know that was called. But, okay, so, you know, you're here, the mercury thing's been driven into your brain pretty hard. Hopefully you have established that mercury is toxic, and that maybe we should do something about it. So, you get that straight in your head, that's it, and step number one, your patient comes, now they want to know, oh, what about fluoride, you know, don't tell me you're doing fluoride in your house. Well, you're going to have to make that decision. Some people choose, they just, you know, they just can't swallow the pill, and, you know, you have to decide, because are you going to use fluoride or you're not? And you know, you've already been told the whole fluoride problem is right there. It's because it's top on the halide list. It's the most reactive. It displaces iodine, which creates havoc with your hormones. And fluoride's a huge problem, and it's there like everywhere. So become fluoride aware, but at least be ready to discuss it with your patient, because your biologic questioning patient is going to want you to have a stance on fluoride. And so as an alternative, we don't do any fluoride trace. And then some people who are new, they struggle with that. It's a loss of income, for one thing. But for some reason, you know, I got to put something on their teeth after we get done cleaning them. You can use MI paste, but it has saccharin in it. But there is another, you can find it on Amazon and everything. There's some minerals, powders that you can use if you really want to treat them with something. But there's really no need that I see to give you these treatments.
I've been trying to figure out this whole remineralization thing too. I know even in Janet, there's a lot of iodine things. Do you?
Iodine, Maddie's got
We prescribe iodine to all the kids. On EagleSoft, you can set up your prescription template. So one of the templates we have on there is super saturated potassium iodine. And the acronym for that is SSKI. It's 50 milligrams per drop. So what I do is I dispense 15 milliliters, dilute it with 15 milliliters of water. So now you've got another 25 milligrams per drop. And then I have the patient do a patch test on the back of the wrist and wait 24 hours for a rash to occur. If the rash doesn't occur, then I have them brush with 4 drops on a wet toothbrush 3 times a week. So it's SSKI, dispense 15 milliliters, diluted with 50 milliliters of water, do a patch test on that wrist. If no rash occurs, then brush 3 times a week on that brush. And what I see is the bottle, I'm not going to say I'm called bottle decay, but lots of going to jump on me. But the bottle decay will go from a orangey brown color, it'll turn very black, and it'll turn hard as a rock. You won't be able to even penetrate it with Explorer. And now that I'm looking at getting the light water laser, I'll probably start taking some of those out with the laser pretty soon. But I monitor those, and sometimes if it's a new pediatric patient, I'll say, we're going to get you back in 3 months, and if you're compliant with the SSKI, you'll see if the decay's it's gotten bigger or smaller.
SSKI actual thing or it's your thing? Is SSKI?
Potassium iodine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, Maddie's does that very professionally. I say go buy bottles of glucose solution. Iodine is an essential element, so I don't really, it would be so odd for you to find a reaction to it. You should actually be taking some glucose maybe. And then I dilute it, I just dilute glucose solution. It's a potassium iodine, you can buy it from Amazon.
Why do we say glucose? Because I just been telling my patient, I didn't know about glucose.
Glucose is a particular formulation by Dr. Rugol from probably 1879 or something, and it's in proper proportion according to some, versus nascent iodine, which is a non-charged iodine, which is still, it's just as viable. There's just an argument about what's better to take for your teeth. But glucose, you can buy it over the counter, so it's simple. And you know, remember that fluoride reduces your IQ. Near me, I have a town who is the only town out in western Mass that's fluoridated. And when I came to that area, I was thinking, moving here, everybody that I had met is like, everybody's nuts there. Now I've been there and I found them. They are totally different. And they don't fit into our area. It's a weird thing.
I think I missed something. So why is the iodine, why are we rushing with iodine?
Oh, it kills the streptococcus mutans bacteria.
In children, it's for decay, prevention, or actually, the Nolan tells me he has his, and even adults, if they have early caries, they can put that iodine on there for 6 months and let's see, and sometimes it will turn black and harden, and then you don't have to drill it, as long as they don't mind having a black spot.
What about the providone iodine, David Kennedy's?
It works more for gum issues, I think.
Yeah. He's looking at periodontal condition, but it's still, it's iodine. It's all a different mixture of the type of salt that they use. And I think that all would be equally, the iodine is the active ingredient.
So you're describing this to arrest the decay in a high-risk patient.
Correct.
Could you use it, have on an ongoing basis preventively, have them continue the brushing 3 times a week with
Yeah,
it?
I explain to patients this is a very bioavailable form of iodine. You probably use it anyway. 74% of all Americans are iodine deficient. And as Waz was saying, limited drink fluoridated water while they're pregnant. The fluoride and mercury all go through the placenta. Mercury is concentrated 107% in the placenta. So then the woman gets a flu shot, and she's getting the methyl mercury from her mountains, and she's getting the ethyl mercury from her flu shot. And that's very synergistic. Japanese women eat a very high seaweed diet. And so we think that the iodine helps to form associative memory synapses in the brain as the brain's forming. And so if you're iodine deficient and you're exposed to fluoride, now that's what causes your IQ to drop, at the same time. I had a doctor in my town who took 20 women who were trying to get pregnant and put them on 12.5 milligrams of iodine every day. He says, while you're trying to get pregnant, start taking the iodine right now and don't drink any fluoridated water. We'd like to see what happens when your kids are born. I've got a 3-year-old in my practice who was a part of that iodine study. He's playing chess with his dad. And he's speaking in full paragraphs. This kid is just like...
Yeah, if you ever want to look at Fletch's lectures on that subject that Maddie's talking about, Fletch's, when I first saw him, I think he said he had 9 geniuses in his practice. Now he's up to like 30. And it's by supplementing iodine during pregnancy and breastfeeding.
This whole discussion of caries prevention kind of reminds me of something that's been seen recently in more mainstream dental literature: sodium nitrate, sodium fluoride, used for that same purpose. I've heard mainstream dentistry take on it. Does IAOMT have a take on sodium fluoride, sodium nitrate for caries prevention and caries treatment?
Iodine fluoride's never been tested for safety and efficiency. They just threw some fluoride in with some chemical varnish and said, hey, this might work pretty good. So I don't think it's ever been tested for safety.
If it says fluoride on it, I'm not putting it in my kid.
What about silver nitrate?
Silver nitrate, I'm told, we do have a couple of members that use it and they say it works. So I don't, we don't have a stance on it. For myself, if I have a young patient who's got a lot of decay problems, it's generally, I'm trying to figure out, if it's not diet, if you have this person that's not diet, which I have these couple of instances in my practice, where they're totally organic on this farm, they got about 18 kids, and 2 of them have this decay problem. They have a systemic issue. We think right now, we're thinking it's that they might have parasites, and they have, the parasites are not allowing them to get their nutrients. It's not, they eat the same thing as everybody else in the family, and it's a wonderful family, and it's, I think about what's causing it. I don't think about so much about treating it. I mean, treating it, you get that done. You're troubled by trying to figure out why are they getting this decay, and especially in adults. You're seeing decay. Why the heck is that happening?
So I'm new to the whole iodine discussion. So this Lugol solution, do you use that only for high-risk patients, or do you use it?
You can, I have, if you watch
Right,
lectures,
pregnant, he wants a smart kid.
and I tell my patients about that genius thing, and they're like, I ain't taking that. I don't want some kid like that. You know, I'm like, well, hey, I was thinking, you know. But anyway, I think people are funny. Watch Brownstein's and Fletcher's lectures on the subject, and they will give you, you can hook up through that. They'll give you specific things that you could try. I would, you know, I don't, I'm not overstepping my boundaries and saying to my patients, oh, you're pregnant, you know, take iodine because then, you know, good way to get set up for trouble. They'll blame me for everything. But I let them watch this, and then they can make their own decision, and you can get some direction from. And Fletcher's is available that you can contact him, and he can look at your testing and all of that stuff. So that.
Fletch.
Pardon?
Fletch.
Fletcher's?
Yeah.
He's a teacher. Fletcher's. Dr. Jorge Fletcher's.
Okay.
When you go back, I can't tell you which year it is, but then you can go back into the lecture series, and you'll see Jorge Fletcher's. He talks on boron, which is very interesting, and he also talks on iodine, and then Brownstein's original lecture, when the first time he came here, and he lectured us, and he's got a book on iodine, and so you'll find that information in there about the iodine.
Well, Fletcher spells his last name, F-L-E-T-C-H-A-S.
The Fletch has more though for dental.
First name is Jorge.
Without my wife here. As far as dental, using it for dental.
The iodine?
You talk about using it for high-risk patients, obviously, but do you use it at, like in a low rate for preventive purposes?
If I have a person who's got perio, I have them irrigating with it, at least a few times a week. If I have a patient who has a decay problem with children, then it's a way that, because it's so hard for the parents to do much, you'll put that iodine brushing on there with hope that you can arrest the decay that's happening. And then in other patients, my adult patients, if they're getting a cavity for some reason, I'm sitting down and I'm like, okay, how much sugar are you eating? How much stress do you have? You know, because the stress can also be totally causing decay. So, and why? Maybe you're gluten intolerant, maybe you're not absorbing enough minerals, maybe you're not taking enough minerals. So I'm not really talking to my adult patients about using iodine to prevent decay. I'm going to be using insight to try to stop this problem. And if they are getting decay as an adult, there's a systemic issue of some type.
Another thing that can cause adult decay is a deficiency in D3 and K2. If you look at this patient, Loma Linda, normally if your D3, K2 is up to where it should be, the pituitary gland sends a message to the pulp in the tooth to push the fluid out. And I tell my patients, your tooth is a living, breathing organ. And if your D3, K2 is high enough, that fluid's getting pushed out, and so does the bacteria and toxins. If your D3, K2 is low, the pituitary gland doesn't send that message, and then the pulp will suck the fluid in. And so I noticed in my practice for years, patients from the ages of 29 to 55 just didn't get any root decay. And all of a sudden they turn 60, 65, and all of a sudden you see all these little black spots come up on the roots. And now, after working with Waz and some of these other guys, we figured out, well, maybe the D3 and K2. So I prescribe that liposomal form of D3 and K2.
Yeah, Quicksilver's got a good.
I've seen a lot of decay on my college kids that are coming back. And they'll come back after 6 months to a year in college and they've got 6 or 8.
Oh, they're drinking coffee. They discovered coffee with sugar. And they're stressed out because they wait until 2 o'clock in the morning to start studying for their exam. It's typical.
That glucose iodine, do you dilute it or you place it?
Dilute.
You dilute it.
But 2% is strong enough to buy.
Okay.
And then dilute it to maybe 50% or something in that manner. Otherwise, it kind of burns.
Okay.
Use it on yourself.
Okay, try that.
Order some, it's cheap, try it out.
Because I went to a lecture where they, at the office, placed it full strength.
You can't.
Okay.
The first time I used it, I went full strength. Oh my God.
Oh, okay. And then do you have to be aware of any thyroid?
Yeah, be aware that it might be a big benefit.
Oh, benefit, okay.
If they have Hashimoto's.
Because people actually, no, you'll watch those lectures and you'll see that you can put your patients who have thyroid on thyroid medication, monitor by your doctor, start taking some iodine, and they come off of their thyroid medication. This is not uncommon at all.
Careful if they have Hashimoto's, because half the doctors are going to tell them to take lots of iodine.
Yes,
The
yes.
other half the doctors will say, no iodine if you got Hashimoto's. If you mess them up, that's your fault.
So when you say be careful, what does it mean?
Well, Hashimoto's is overreactive, so if you in that Fletcher's lecture, he'll explain to you, you have to monitor them. You don't want to be prescribing iodine for a thyroid if you're a dentist, but maybe your naturopath will help you with that. But if in Hashimoto's, and you can't, when you give them iodine, they do need iodine, but it can actually cause them to like overreact and they can have like a heart attack or something. So it's better, I don't get into it, I tell them that I actually, lucky I have a naturopath who will introduce it, but closely monitor the medication, and slowly we're trying to stop this whole reaction. You know?
Make a comment, but I just thought when you were saying that as far as having a naturopath. When I got my SMART certification, I just sent letters to all my naturopaths, like in town, and they all became my patients, not all of them, but they became my patients, and it's, so once you get your SMART certification, then just say, hey, I'm SMART certified, this is what I do, and then you just start calling and making appointments with me.
That's
Cool. Whether I did anything or not.
You've got a great group. I mean, you should, the best thing, I think, and what I use is I buy the smart cards. You guys see those smart cards? You become smart certified, then you make it easy for your doctor who's like, well, you know, that other dentist is my friend. I can show you the cards if you're interested, but they're nice fancy cards. You can buy them from the office, and then it doesn't have your name on it. It just give your patients this. Make sure that you have your mercury removed smart, and then they can go and they're going to find you because you're the local dentist who provides smart. And it takes the personal kind of, oh, you have to go to this dentist out of it. But you educate your naturopath about the smart removal, and luckily for you, you have some that responded very positively. And you have people, they're going to send you all of their patients to.
That was a unplanned positive.
It's so cool, but you know, my naturopath is so confident, he's got no restorations, he thinks he's perfect, and but he's an awesome, total awesome doctor, I love him. So then your next topic, okay, so you've got mercury, and you've got fluoride, you've got those two things down, they're coming to you now, they also, especially now, right now, everybody wants to know about the root canal. You know, and you have to take your stance. You either believe in root canals, you don't believe in root canals, or you could be middle ground and say, oh, maybe this one's okay. So, but you need to have, they're going to want to have the discussion. You need to be prepared to address it. For me, I mean, when I used to do them when I first started, to now, I just tell my patient I would never have it in my mouth. I have on my wall some beautiful charts, you know, some beautiful meridian charts showing the connections, and it's amazing how often the root canal tooth winds up with this problem on the same side of the body. Like, oh, that root canal is on the knee meridian, and you have a knee problem or a foot problem. And Joe, I don't know if he told you on Thursday that about him. He had a Achilles problem for years and years, and finally he had this front root canal taken out. For him, as soon as they extracted his root canal, while he was in the dental chair, his ankle pain. He said it was amazing. He said he couldn't believe it. It's something like that. So there's things we don't know. We don't have the science for this, but the meridian thing is very real. And dead heat on meridian is a very questionable thing. In the academy on Thursday, we had this huge endo meeting. We have a new committee chairperson who's an endodontist, and we are open. They have this new technique. But she even said in her lecture that, you know, there are like 80-some% of root canals are failures. And to me, they're all, and they don't turn into failures, they're a failure from day one. But you have to decide for yourself, you know, are you going to think about that or not? So if you are undecided, the one easy thing you can do, your patient can have a thermogram. And get it, and you can have a head and neck thermogram, which women have been using for breast exams for years. And in my area, because I live out in the boonies, there's a person who travels around, and then you can, in cities there, you can go into thermographic. This is my patient who I've been telling for probably 8 years that she has a problem with a root canal in the front. Well, I can't afford it, I don't want it. Finally, this just happened about a month or two ago. She went and got a thermogram. Guess where the problem is? Yeah, it's pretty obvious. Her number 7 tooth is the root canal. And I said, then she writes to me, you see, it's all about, when you look at a thermogram, we're not the readers. There's thermographic doctors that will give you a report. But it's all about symmetry. And what she has here, I've looked at enough of them, I now know. Right here, she has a drainage problem. Okay? Here, look at it. She's got a root canal right there. And that's a different picture. You can have cone-beam 2D radiograph, and you can have acupuncture meridian assessment. And we love as many assessments as you can get. But I'll tell you, for all of my patients, when I learned how bad the cavitations and root canals were from Lechner and Slovenia, I came back and every single one of my patients, whether they got mercury in their mouth or not, if you have had your wisdom teeth extracted or any extraction or any root canals, you need a thermogram. And they go get it, and you can sometimes see some like, wow, like this is like the whole thing draining down.
Who does those? Is it just?
There's thermographers.
Okay.
So don't bother trying to buy one and stuff.
No.
They charge like $150 for the patient to go get it. They'll send you a thing, and then the doctor, thermographic doctor, it costs you $10,000 in a year to get certified if you want to do that. But I can tell, but I tell my patients, you get the doctor's report so that we can see, and they'll tell you, yes.
I have a question. Oh, what is the, what do endodontists say when they see something like a thermograph and you're trying to say that this?
What does the endodontist say?
Or the
I haven't talked to one since yesterday. There she is.
So as I'm learning, I'm becoming more and more middle ground. So I look at the whole history, I look at the medical history, and if a patient has an obvious lesion on the x-ray, we have that cone beam in-house, so I do the cone beam on every consultation. If there's a lesion and they're medically compromised and they're symptomatic, I tell them straight up, you need an extraction. I don't do the endo, I do the production. I'm not in it for the money. So I'm middle ground in that way. We're about to meet our local thermographer, who's only 2 buildings away, which is nice, on Wednesday. So I'm going to learn more about that. But I have to follow up, and I want to kind of connect all 3 issues. I have a question. Have you ever had a patient with no visible lesion on the endo, on the old endo, no symptoms, for example? Cone beam looks clean, PDL looks intact, but it's hot on the thermogram.
This is the metabolism. Absolutely, you're going to find it. Okay? You have an x-ray, cone beam.
All clear. And then
Now we're looking at lymph drainage. Yes. You need to check all root canals with a thermogram, in my opinion. I just turned over the chair of the cavitation committee, and we established that it's recommended that you should have this really, it's just an assessment. You can don't have to, you have that at the beginning, and then you're going to rehab the patient, and then maybe wait a year to 2 years, take a new thermogram, and see how you did. Because it's just a nice tool to look at the function. I didn't mean to spill.
So it's measuring the heat from the bacteria, or like the heat of the bacteria?
This? No, it's not. This is your body's T cells coming to the site. That there's active immune response to whatever it is. Like Lechner, he's looking at cytokines and cytokine release, which is like unbelievable when you look at that and the implications of what it causes. If you want to see Lechner's research lecture, send me an email and ask for it, and I'd be happy to give it to you, but you're going to be like devastated to see the implication of what this, we don't even know, is it bacteria, is it the presence of dead bone? We're pretty sure it is bone, and then also there's metal there. Metal is collecting in jaw bones. I just read a surgeon saying, I never take my bone graft from the mouth, from any jawbone. It's the dirtiest bone in the whole body. And I couldn't agree more with that. And then, of course, the definitive, if you're going to extract, if you're going to make a diagnosis, and you want to be, the definitive is cone beam now, and you've got to do that for surgery anyway, because you need to know what you're getting into. I don't have it, my surgeon has it, I hate blood, so I don't do surgery. So now you've got, you're ready to talk about amalgam, you're ready to talk about fluoride, and you've got to take a stance on root canals, or at least have a discussion, because your biologic patient's coming is expecting you to have a talk, and that includes osteonecrotic lesions of the jawbone. And this is something that they expect that you're going to screen them for. For years, I was afraid, I didn't know what to do with it, so I never talked about it. And then finally, when I saw Lechner and I saw his lecture on it and how devastating it is, I came back and everybody was getting a thermogram, and I suddenly look at my old x-rays and I can see, it's hard, very hard to see on a two-dimensional x-ray, but I see, oh my God, this patient's got a jawbone lesion I've never talked about. And I go back to my spiel. Hey, I learned something. You know what? You got a problem. You know, and but it doesn't hurt. Well, they hardly ever hurt. You know, that's a Nico lesion, and it's very rare to find a Nico lesion. But most of the time they're asymptomatic, and so screening your patient for lesions in old wisdom tooth sites and around root canals and things like that is something that you're expected to learn about. You need to learn about it, and you need to be ready to at least discuss it and your stance on it. So it's just it's a thing that they expect. And you have educated patients that are going to be coming to you. If you're going to, get your website like you need to, it's going to bring like tons of people to you when you're smart certified. They expect, they might not even tell you, but they expect that you, as a biologic dentist, you're like the greatest dentist in the world. You've looked to see if they have this. So I would suggest that you need to screen.
How many people in here do all your own surgery? Okay. So you have to be very careful when you have a patient walk in the door with a root canal and they want it out, but you don't want to be the one to remove it, and then you refer them to the oral surgeon. Because I've had a couple of oral surgeons over the years call me up. Hey Matt, Mrs. Jones is in the office today with tooth number 3. She wants to extract it. It's asymptomatic and it's looking at the x-ray. So why am I extracting it? Okay. That will create a problem.
Yeah, you're going to marry a surgeon, or
you educate
mine is a periodontist, and he's now a member of the academy. I've been dragging him along, and you have to find somebody, if you're not going to do it yourself, that is not going to, who is not toxic. These guys are toxic.
Well, if I don't want to take it out, and I send it to the surgeon, I tell them if you want it out, you have to tell them it's sentimental.
Yeah.
Well, or just say I want it out. You know, and it's whatever, you know, but you want a biologic extraction, you want
Yeah,
them to
because you
clean
bring
it
in
up.
the problem where you're getting it to be extracted, but if it's not extracted properly.
It's usually a root canal too.
You're going to create a cavitation.
That you need to do it, so
So
you need to find
talking
a
about
different
PRF, ozone, right?
Yeah.
Pull the tube, you're not looking at like ozonate the socket with 30 micrograms of ozone. It's been like
Yeah, I do it, and then I do ozone before. We do full head ozone near nose, ears on the day of surgery, and then for 4 to 6 weeks afterwards, I'm injecting around the sites with ozone. So that's like where we are with the protocol. We have not, we're working on that paper. We had a 2-hour meeting on Thursday about cavitation. We're trying to get a new position paper for this. We have a group of surgeons around the world that I on an email list with, so that we email and exchange information. And right now, because I'm like the most outspoken person on the whole thing, we have thermogram as a first extraction with ozone if possible, and supplementation for a month before to 6 months after, with a list of supplements to supplement for get your patient into the best shape for bone healing. So I'd be happy to share that protocol with you, what we're doing. And some of those ideas came from Switzerland, who's he does everything in one day. It's pretty wild.
I follow them really closely.
Yeah, they're good, but I don't agree with destroying the tuberosity. He's into this.
Ooh, that one I don't know.
Yeah. Well, have you been there to see him?
No, that's like on my bucket list.
You gotta
I mean, I
go.
have that.
You gotta go. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, I follow them pretty closely. I mean, dude, that's kind of how I started down this path. Is I started seeing what they were doing. Like, gosh, this is kind of interesting stuff, and that's kind of where mine was.
What's his name again?
Swiss
Bolts.
Bio.
Swiss Biohealth?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bolts is in Switzerland, and it's a clinic. It's called. They actually sponsored, but their rep got sick or something. Was it SDS?
SDS.
SDS, yeah.
Is there an implant line? Not yet.
Yeah.
Let me give you my email address in case you guys get home and you want to email. It's myoung 9718 at AOL.com. I'm old school. But I've got to sit with Mary now and go visit her before I get to the airport, so I'm going to head out and go check it out. I went to if you were still around that house.
All right. Great to see you.
And if you guys have any questions, email me. Thanks for coming. Have fun.
Thanks for your help, Nick.
Yes, sir.
Hey, so like we already discussed the protocol. I mean, look at this. This is why I don't do surgery. That's gross, man. This is what you see. You open it up, and then that whole top just crumbles off of there. I mean, when I do my pre-op ozone injections into the sites, sometimes the needle goes like right through the bone, and I go, oh my God, you know, and I hope no pus comes out of there. But so they can be gross. Here's a thermogram that you'll probably never see, but if you're lucky, you can see actually from the jawbone all the way going to the breast. The lymph drainage, it's actually lymph backup coming here. And this, you know, is the Hal Huggins thing is, show me a breast cancer that doesn't have a root canal on the same side. And don't worry. Don't worry.
Well, I'm just thinking of patients.
I know, I can see it on your face. We've learned I learn I'm bringing you my latest learnings that galvanic. I mean, this is just for me in the last year about learning how intense the problem is with galvanism. And how, that when you watch the ELISA, you're going to see like, wow, that's why that person's blood pressure keeps going up and keeps going up, you know? And so you learn, and you tell your patient, okay, I learned something, you're sick. So, yeah, this is the value of sometimes you might get lucky and really even see a track like that. But that's a rare thing to see. And it's that simple. You've got the bases covered. I gave you the things that you need to know about. And those are the things that your patients expect out of you. Now your job is just to educate yourself, get yourself a stance, and have a ball, man, because you're going to learn for the rest of your life. Yes.
So are you using a CT scan or a thermogram or both? Or how do you routinely screen patients for the cavitation?
I suggest everyone starts with a thermogram before I start working on them, if possible, because I want to see the metabolic picture. Then, if we find a problem or we want to have something we know from the thermogram or we know from the radiograph that there is a cavitation or a lesion on a root canal, not a two-dimensionally successful root canal, but maybe one that, then I also, before we have surgery, 100% get a cone beam. We got to see the bone before we extract it, right? And that also, as far as your dental board goes, they're going to want to see that documentation. When you get the cone beam, what we are currently using is the density dot, the Hounsfeld units to look. It's very hard to even see them on the cone beam. Sometimes you can see a hole, sometimes you cannot, but you can take and see where the density is. And the density oftentimes in these wisdom tooth sites can go like it's 400, 500, negative 100. There's a hole there.
Is there not supposed to be any holes in the mandible? Like, aren't there, is there just not supposed to be any? Because I'm trying to play with my CBCT, and then I see, and then I heard the counterfeit using some kind of just.
You don't have it?
No, I do.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I'm just trying to play around, I don't know what I'm looking at, and then I try to take these house movements, and I do see where it goes in the negative. Is that really cavitation?
There's a lesion.
Like, the entire mandible, there should be no negative.
As far as we know, I mean, unless you're at the mental foramen or something, you know.
Right.
But you're comparing that person's bone density, and then all of a sudden there's an area that is not. There's something wrong there. Why is that area not have any density? And so you have to be, and then this will give you confidence. This thermogram is going to give you confidence that there is a problem there.
So can you just talk about thermograms for a minute? Because I don't know anything about it. Is it, you say check, you want to see the metabolism, like lymph nodes, is that what
It's a heat measurement, so it's very simple. It measures millimeter to millimeter, half-degree differences, so that you get a picture like, okay, this is a hot spot, or even worse, you get a picture that's a cold spot because there's no blood supply there because you've got dead bone. Hot or cold, that's not bilateral, is something going on. And if you have a patient who's skeptical, if you yourself can't be convinced, take another thermogram in 6 months and see what it looks like. And then you have this thermogram, it's just another unaccepted by corporate America assessment. That's like, duh, why are we using this? You know, this is, to me, it's how scientific is measuring heat. You know, it's like you measure heat. You know, there's different forms of assessment. The more you have, the more strongly you feel that you know that there's something there. But if you see something there, there's something there. And your cone beam, there's a negative. There's something wrong in that area. And some are very difficult. You get these premolar extraction cases. Wow. You know, those are tough, you know. And I have one now that looks like they have this big lesion, but the teeth are all vital.
Oh, like a blood field?
Yeah, oh yeah. The teeth are all vital, but there's a big lesion. So,
How do you clean that out? Ozone? Gas?
well, you know, in a person you don't like to extract vital teeth, then I would suggest that you would inject ozone gas in there about 10 times and see what happens. But if they have symptoms on that gradient, I'm really worried about it. If they have no problems, no health problems, I would still try to treat it. But it's only a suggestion. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. And if you go ask the surgeon, he's gonna tell you I'm crazy. Because I am. Because I am. I read every night. All I do is study this, you know. So yeah, because he doesn't do that, because he would know about this.
Kind of to go along with Owen's question is, what about like dense bony islands or mirroring spaces on the bone? Are those totally different than what we're looking for?
I mean, I remember I'm not the surgeon. I don't have the cone. He has the whole thing and he reads it and we talk it over all the time.
Okay.
So he tells me that sometimes it's kind of even hard to find, and you go, and then bam, all of a sudden there's like a negative 210.
Okay, so it's different than actual like.
You're going to see vary as you go across. You're going, anatomically, you got to know your anatomy.
Yeah, like there's mirror spaces.
You got to know your anatomy. You know you need to know where the foramens are, because you're going to your density, of course, you know. So yes.
Sorry, do all home beans come with that function?
No, they don't. And I don't know which ones do, but I know that some don't have it, and then some people like hit themselves in the head because they just spent $120,000 on a machine that doesn't have it.
But maybe the reading part.
It's very hard.
Like a Vivo does.
They tell me usually you can see it if you know how to do it.
Sometimes you have it.
Yeah.
Somewhere, I'm sure you have it.
Yeah, you've got the biggest.
Yeah, you might be able to add it. I think there might be an add-on thing too. That software that you can add.
Yeah, but
So the reading software is.
reading stuff.
I'm
sure you
have
learn more about that.
Hans Lechner. It's L-E-C-H-N-E-R. Okay, he's our researcher in cavitation surgery.
That's what I have.
You got it right to me. I'll give you the lectures, but you go on and search his studies. He's got great, he's well documented. He looks at cytokines. He's not looking at bacteria. I asked him if he would do metal testing. He told me, everybody has metal. He thought it was a waste of time, but I think it's important.
Yeah.
Rontes. Yeah, the first time he lectured to us, he got up there and he started lecturing. He did this whole hour lecture. It was like fascinating about Rontes. And when he got done, I looked at the person next to me. What the hell is Rontes? Finally, somebody had to ask me, it's cytokine. You know, like, he's awesome. I hated that guy in Slovenia. And it's there's cytokines where there's like 32 cytokines. It costs money to look at more and more cytokines. He does like 7. We're going to fund him so that he can look at more. And one interesting thing he found was he looks at the cytokine that causes pain, and he looks at this Rontes because it's implicated in so many different things as cancer and heart attacks and blah, blah, blah. And the Rontes might go up 100-fold, but the pain cytokine goes to near 0. That's why you have no pain with these lesions. So it's fascinating, and we're funding him to look at more. And he's the only guy that's doing research right now. I mean, I have some proposed studies that I want to do, but nobody else wants to do. Wait, do you have another question? No.
I think the
Yes.
an overarching one. It seems like the key to a lot of this is getting the patients in the door that are already abreast on the information. So how do you, I guess my question is this, because with dental boards and what you can and can't say or what you can and can't put on the website, what does that all look like?
First, you detox, so that you end your fear. Okay? The board is not coming to get you. All right?
Okay.
The number one reason for anybody getting in trouble, and I haven't even heard one in a long time, is another dentist in your town complaining because you're getting all the patients.
Right.
Okay?
Like legally on our website, can we say?
So then, your website, it would be best designed by Talk International, who was here at this meeting. Okay? They are totally Biologic aware. It's an awesome company. All right, and they will help you to tell you what you can put on, what you shouldn't put on. They are the people that are aware of what you should have, and they'll help you to design your website beautifully. They do a beautiful job. And then after that, you pay them to optimize it and make sure that you come up on top of the page. Then you put on your seatbelt because people are going to be pouring in the door. That's it.
You better know.
Yeah, don't do it until you're ready, you know? Because I'm telling you, when I did it, I couldn't believe it. The phone literally just started ringing. My front desk was like, oh my God. And yeah, that optimized thing, we did that redesign our site, it's like unbelievable.
And I just put a comment because I'm about 3 years
Yeah.
now. So, and the patients that I have and the patients that I don't have, I'm just super honest. And I'm like, I don't know. And then they go, oh, you're super holistic. And I'm like, let me just tell you, I'm like a year in, or now I'm 2 years in. And they don't care. They just like that you're probably the first honest
Just that
dentist.
you're trying to care.
Yeah, they love that you're just trying to care. I'm more amazed by that than anything. I'm like, I have a woman, I have an Anchorage class. I have a woman that comes from Seattle to see me because I'm a tracker. And she she was my patient and she left. She goes, oh, I see you because you're vegan. And I'm like, I'm not great at it. And she's like, I don't care. I just know that you are, read, study, or are trying to care.
Open-minded.
Open-minded, yeah. So that, I just feel like if you don't know this cavitation thing and they're expecting you to do it, just say. Or I'll tell patients, I'm not ready to do this, and I've sent patients to Texas for sure. I'm like, no, you're going to go find someone else, and I've collaborated with Steve Evans because my patient went there.
No, I totally agree. If you don't want to do the surgery and you don't have any surgeon in your area that you can find, then you should actively try to find somebody because it would benefit the patient if it was close. And this is common. Then you need to decide who you're going to tell them to fly to. Because it's best if you had ozone to support them. But if you don't, it's not we don't know. We don't have all the science on it. It's in the protocol. It's best to do this. But what I love about what she said is you tell them the truth. Like, hey, I'm freaked out by this.
Right, I do.
I'm studying it, I'm reading it, I think there's something wrong, I think we should have it checked out, and I hate blood. And so, that's what I tell my patients, they love you for it. Do not be afraid, because the patients, they're coming to you. Once you get your website up there, they're coming to you, they expect you to know some stuff. But when I don't know, I say, you know what, I don't know, but I'll know by tomorrow. I'll email it to you, and I'll make a call to one of my people, email to Waz, email to somebody that I know might have some information. Sometimes I'm emailing to Slovenia, and you got to come through, correct?
Well, I emailed IAOMT because I had this crazy case, and I'm like, who knows anything about this case? And then
They send you to
they
Demir.
sent me to
Demir?
email, and I sent him all my panos and what I had.
Did he help you out?
He did, but then I sent it to Steve Evans, Dr. Evans.
No, he's fine, man. They said Demir is the most beautiful,
Yeah.
one of the most intelligent people I know. And
Well, he does to check for an album, he does immunofluorescence or something. It's not that. But
he, every time I talk to him, he's doing something else. But
he talked way over my head, and I'm like, you have to go to Texas.
he's hard to, he talks a little broken, so it's sometimes hard to follow. But he's lectured us here on this never-ending endo, if you're not aware of that, you're just replacing the sterile calcium hydroxide every however often you need to do it, until you can do a zirconia implant for maybe some years. I've got a few of them going. Young people that their parents are biologic especially, they don't want to have a root canal. Well, this is what you can offer them until they can old enough or until they have the money. You can do never-ending endo where you just calcium hydroxide, you clean it up each time they come for their cleaning. You make an extra couple $100. You know, hey, it's whatever. I don't like it. I don't like having a dead tooth in the mouth, but it's something that is sometimes you're like, what else am I going to do here? And nobody wants to wear clippers, so it's an easy option that even if you don't do it, that's the only reason I haven't thrown my files away. They were in I have to dust them off when I leave them out, you know. And that's it, you know. My last thing was to give you guys what you really need to read. And this is my most recent discovery. This book is fascinating in that it was written in around 80, I think. Can you see it? Okay. It's by Patrick Storkenbeck. You have to say that because it's too dark. Storkenbeck. But this talks about pathways of mercury exposure and what the consequences are by something that was really, really wild to me is that we talked about that the exposure via your olfactory nerve. And the olfactory nerve, we know about neuronal transport, and now they use neuronal transport in some cases. Well, the mercury gets absorbed into your olfactory nerve, and it gets delivered not via the blood, but via to the base of the brain, which is next to your pituitary and your pineal. And they did a dog experiment, and they found out when they exposed the dogs, they cut open their brain with the dogs. You know, I think that they found that was the area of concentration from the dogs. We haven't cut any humans yet to see it because nobody's going to pay for it, and nobody wants to volunteer for it. But so it's a very real. The consequences are like the pituitary, the command gland, you know, and so that's how potent that mode of exposure is. But for my own interest, I knew that my patients oftentimes kept remember names. And people who I know in the academy who are toxic, they have a horrible time remembering names. You're talking to someone, then you're afraid because you're toxic, and you don't want to go out because you might see some of your patients and you don't know their name. Of course you don't know their name because the name recognition part of the brain is right above the olfactory nerve spot. And so I thought, wow, when I saw that, I was like, wow. I looked it up, I'm like, yes, it's right there. And
It's not old age after all.
no, it's toxicity, and it's like a real thing. I mean, I'll give you that little tip is name recognition, remembrance. And the other thing is watching your patient when you talk to them and blushing. When they're talking to you and they're blushing, they're toxic. They're in sympathetic mode all the time. And the blushing, because they're on the edge, and every time they have a little bit of anxiety about what they're going to say or what you just said, blushing. They're metal toxic. 100%. It's so easy to see when you start looking for it. Blushing, it's like one of the biggest things. And then guess what? When you do the whole rehab, it's like amazing. Their skin looks different, and they quit blushing. It's like amazing when you see your patients afterwards. This is the first book you need to buy and read. And this is just the studies. It's kind of a boring book of all the studies that were buried. And that's so you understand the real mechanism of how decay prevention in the body happens and why decay happens. And it's not about brushing. Brushing is overrated. Flossing, totally, I don't even know what that stuff looks like. But you know, I don't go so far as to tell my patients that, but I know that I don't ask them like, oh, you should be brushing more. You know, it's like, no, we're talking about what's causing the problem with your system that's allowing the decay to happen. And their experiments are amazing. And the fact that this has been buried is disgusting, right? And that first book, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have a hard time finding it. It's out of print, but you're going to have to bid on it somewhere to get it. It's pretty good. Here, I don't know if this is worse than oral lesion, but this, I forgot to tell you about, this is the other thing that I look at in my patients, and I don't know if you guys do. I take pictures of all my patients' tongue, and I look at their tongue, and I will tell you, by the tongue, you can tell immediately if a person is healthy or not. I mean, what do you think that person? Usually the tongue will look like that and people who have a bunch of metal in their mouth. This is my patient who I've had for like 20 years, who has no restorations, has all his wisdom teeth, quiet as a mouse. I don't know what's going on with him, but I've been telling him for 10 years, like, man, you're sick. I'm fine. Guess what? Just last week he was in, and I was like, do I need to go into the tongue thing with you? And he started laughing. He goes, I got a natural path. He goes, and I told him what you told me. He said, I have an appointment next week. This guy's got some gut problems. If your tongue looks like that, your intestinal lining is a mess.
Amen.
You know? And so tongue is huge. And then you can, if you look at traditional Chinese medicine, they actually do this monitoring by the tongue, but it's too hard for me to understand. I wish I knew it, but they talk about the heat, the cold, the covering means something, and all these different places on the tongue correspond to different places. And I wish I knew it, but it's hard. I have a small booklet on my computer. I've read some of it, but you almost have to understand traditional Chinese medicine to understand what these things mean, to really interpret. So I just look at every hygiene visit, I pull out the tongue, grab it with gauze, you know, like, oh, that area is liver. You know, the liver and gallbladder is easy on the sides of the tongue. Got any liver gallbladder problems, you know? No. Okay. It looks like maybe, I said it's not healthy the way it looks. And this guy, I'm so happy that he's finally going to go have it looked at. He's got gut problems. That guy's he's probably got food intolerance problems. Here's your other, this is for your own interest if you want to, and here again, I think you can get it on Amazon. This is the whole story. This is actually someone's thesis about how they, over the years, how they covered up the whole cavitation thing. It's pretty interesting. It's got a lot of names, and it's very hard for a guy who's been toxic and damaged for reading. I have to go back and read more, but it's a very interesting story about why you don't know about cavitation and root canal problems. This will tell you who, when it was discovered, and how they dismissed it over the years. So it's kind of it's a good read for some people, I think.
Is that the one that's out of print?
No, the first one is out of print. This is, you guys probably already know this book, but this is certainly, if you're new, this is a must-read for all biologic dentists. You need to know the Western prices because everybody who comes to you they follow or know about Western price. They expect that you're going to have that knowledge, and so you need to be aware of that whole thing, whether you agree with it or not, but at least be ready to talk with them about it, you know? And that's it, you know? That's being prepared, ending the fear, and detox. Detox you, detox them. You first. You first. You're going to find out. If you've been sucking mercury, I don't care. Who are you to think that you're not toxic? You know?
So until we can get the MB and
Yeah.
what's the best, in your opinion, what's the best way to start?
What's best is liposomal-based glutathione detox. Upregulating your natural system. It's nothing to be afraid of. I have never, ever, I've only been doing it for about 9 years with my patients. I have never, ever had a patient have a problem with it, other than they feel a little anxious. They got to take a drop instead of a teaspoon. You can take less, and you can easily just say, by the Quicksilver protocol, Or I have a protocol I'm happy to share with you that I've been doing since before. It's the same thing. It's liposomal C, it's zinc, selenium, high dose liposomal glutathione, and I use C powder actually. Purify your water. You need to drink a ton of water. I have them buy an RO filter, put pink Himalayan sea salt in the water, and drink plenty of mineral water. And maybe I'm missing something, but if you want to know the exact protocol, then you should send me an email. Or you can go to Quicksilver, and it's easy if you don't want to get involved with it. Just say go to Quicksilver and buy the box. And start doing it. And my patients, I tell them, if they're sick and they're really just having some first symptoms, they say, okay, at least a year. You're doing this at least a year. For anybody who's been suffering and having that you suspect, I said at least 2 years. And maybe you're going to do this for more than that because. And you don't have a problem because when they start feeling good, they don't mind it.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around, I kind of want to defer to my providers, naturopaths, doctors.
Yes.
Do that?
If I agree totally with my naturopath, I would do that. But I at first was afraid to talk about detox for people. But now I detox myself, and I'm not afraid anymore.
Like how does that detox go? I mean, I would detox myself if I need to be, but how does that sit? Is it all over the counter stuff?
Yeah. It's just all it is supplements. It's upregulating your natural system. So that what happens is when you're metal toxic, you become glutathione deficient. Glutathione runs over 20 reactions in your body. So now when you give yourself liposome via the liposome, glutathione, the pill doesn't work. Liposome, IV is too much at once. So liposomal glutathione seems to be pretty good. You are upregulating the system. The vitamin C, which I'm a fan of, you should be taking it every day anyway, is upregulating your natural glutathione production. And it's reducing your glutathione so that it stays active. So those work hand in hand. Lots of water because you need to pee it out. Because if you're not drinking enough water, this is what happens to you. So you're not going to see that in a person who has mercury fillings, I don't believe. But if you do a whole bunch at once, you can damage your proximal tubules if you use the wrong product. You'll never get this with glutathione. You never, but if you're doing DMPS, DMSA, your patient's grabbing it over the counter, and they're trying to, they panic like I did, and you try to get it out all at once, you can do damage to your tubules. And I suffered for that, and that was probably using, I think, DMSA, or some box thing that I bought. And before I knew anything about the academy, I thought I had to write the book at that point. I was like, oh man, I got to tell everybody about this, you know.
I just want to mention I'm getting my holistic nursing degree in Western Price, which is great.
Nice.
But just to really make sure that you were talking about liposomal glutathione, it's to really make sure that you, and you're probably doing this, is to get a good quality vitamin. Don't go to Amazon and buy cheap things, especially like vitamin C.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of vitamin C in this country is made from China, and it's not checked, and it's full of toxins as well. So it's not going to be a cheap thing. When people go to Appreciate's site and see that it's over $100, oh, what is that? I can get it for $12 at Amazon.
Right.
Well, you're talking about products that have not even been looked at, and you don't even know where you're taking.
Absolutely.
So
No cheap vitamins. No, you need to. That's why I take control of it, because then I use this MPH. You saw they were here. They have all of those products. You can sign up with them, and through them, this mountain group, you can just send an email to your patient, or they will send you. You sign them up, and they can buy everything from them, and then they send you a check once in a while for taking all your time to get them set up, to tell them what to buy, and make sure that I control what products they buy. My C has always been Perk. And Perk is just a great company, and Jaffe comes here and lectures sometimes, probably one of the smartest guys I know.
The one I go through is similar, it's called Emerson Logistics.
Yeah, Emerson, I don't know. I don't know about them, and then there's the question with pure encapsulation, they just got bought out by Nestle, but then I was told that maybe they're going to switch over to be, I don't know. I go with Russ Jaffe because I know him, he comes here, you can talk to him, you can sit down and have a glass of wine with him, whatever. And everything is produced in this country. He's an honest man, he's brilliant, and he wants to create the best product. So that's good. When you meet Chris Shade and you see this guy is the same with his liposome idea. Liposomes are a little bit more costly. Unfortunately, the only way you can take glutathione is by liposome or IV. Although this acetyl, they say, transdermal, but I don't know the science on that one. But
Now the GB's got all those, the live-on labs.
read where they come from.
Yeah, and they also are made.
They're 100% synthetic.
And they're made.
Every single thing they sell is synthetic vitamin C, synthetic vitamin D, synthetic.
Really, I read some of his books, so I just kind of went with it.
He's good, man, but I don't like his product. I don't know if it's even his, but I don't like that one. So.
It's also has soy containing, which I try to avoid.
I'm not a fan of that, but
Yes,
maybe synthetic is good for you. I just have an attitude, like that. I don't want it, yes.
Has anybody here heard of Immunocal? Yeah, see it, because they claim to do something like this with the cysteine and then convert to glutathione in your body or something like that. It's a really expensive product.
Well, there's a lot of detox products that are out there claiming stuff. I'm going to tell you, don't make it harder. It's simple. It's simple. You can use a supplement with these high sulfur amino acids, and then if your body's working correctly, it might be able to convert and maximize your glutathione level. But why not just give them liposomal glutathione? And when you take it, for most people, you feel it. I mean, at first I could only take one drop for a couple of months, one drop, and I felt like good, like energy, So that's my argument. This guy's going to tell you something else, but he can't talk. So, and we do have Lloyd Haley's product coming, ear mitts. And it's, you can get it on early right now. If you have a patient, I'm going to be asking for it for my patient who had throat surgery and radiation, and now, of course, all his teeth are falling out. So I know that he has radioactive poisoning going on in the jawbone after all these years. So, but the key is, I'm going to say, this patient had multiple metal fillings. I have suspicion that he has mercury toxicity. You have to say if you're asking for it, you have to say mercury toxicity. No matter, I suspect he has mercury toxicity. You don't have to be an MD like it says. You can just put attending physician, DDS, and your name, and then fill out about 18 pages, and then you can get it in 2-week increments of this product. So we do have access to it right now, which is nice, and for this patient in particular. Otherwise, I'm running that other detox, or you can just totally stay out of the detox picture, but I do recommend, it's a good idea that they should be taking a couple of things before you do this whole mouth rehab on them. And remember, you're using the SMART protocol for all metal removal. And here, isn't that a beautiful bird? No. This is actually a person. This is actually a person. If you look, you probably can't see it very clearly. That's his foot. There's his arm over his head. You see it? They took all day, they painted him. And now, if you see this ever again, you'll never see the bird again. because that's how it is. When you enter the rabbit hole, you can't go back. You can't go back. That's why I chose this picture to show it to you, because once you see the truth, you can't go back and practice dentistry the same. It's the most fun thing. You guys have so much learning ahead of you. It's so much fun. I invite you need to learn. You need to, I learn every day. I change my mind on things. And like I say to my patient, the best thing you can always say is, this is how I think about it today. Other than mercury, no. It's going to be poison tomorrow too. So I thank you all for being here. I'm here to answer. I got till 6 o'clock. If you want to hang out and talk, I'll talk as long as you want.
Can we talk to them?
Yeah.
So everyone that walks in my office has issues.
Well, thyroid can be thyroid is generally associated with some kind of a strange reaction by your immune system. So it can be mercury, because the mercury. No, it can be mercury because the mercury attaches to the protein, and then on the thyroid, and then your body is attacking it. Okay, or it can be metals. You can be reacting to the palladium or the nickel or something, or even titanium, and it can be cross-reacting with the thyroid. Or it can also be food intolerance. And for food intolerance testing, the best testing is Japanese illicit act LRA. And so all of my people with thyroid problems, I want them to consider food intolerance testing as well. And not just the metals. I do this, I suggest to them they should consider both and all. All right? Because and you see that go away. People all the time in my practice, they don't have to take thyroid anymore.
So what's the metal testing?
The metal testing for metal intolerance at this point, because we're going to, I just got some information that maybe there's another test. At this point, the only test we have is ELISA for metal testing. And that's to see if you are having a reaction, not locally, systemic reaction to the metal. And there are nickel foods. There are foods that have nickel. And some people actually, you even have to eliminate that. So, you have metal implants, which, heaven forbid, there's no pure titanium. They all have nickel, 100% aluminum. And it looks like a number of them, a much higher number of them react in this peri-implantitis. Ask every single person who's ever called it peri-implantitis, did you get ELISA to see if it's actually a immune reaction? Or what's very typical, what we see is on the same side of the metal implant, the person has a hip problem. So when I was sitting with lunch with Lechner, and I told him, something I've seen over and over are people who have hip pain and hip problems with metal implants. He said, "Oh!" He said, "I said exactly what." He said, because the bone in the jaw is very different than other parts of the body, except for it is very similar to the hip. And so there's a cross reaction when your body starts to react to the area. It's also is reacting to your hip. And these people can have hip problems. It can be other problems, but that's just one.
Hip and knee or just head?
Or it can be anything. It can be what? It can be anything. It can be anything. It's what? Shoulder pain? Oh, man. So you take out your protein. Make sure you get a set of protein.
Yeah, I can do a video.
Send me an email.
Okay. I have a lot of emails.
Sorry. Take out your protein and inject around the implant or around the root canal. And just, we don't know if it's going to work, but your shoulder pain, you can only go this high, inject around. It only lasts for a short time, but then you're going to show your patient like, oh my God. Or you can go right in the shoulder. Put some in his head too. Thanks, man.
The Talk International, how do you spell that?
Just like it sounds, just like talking.
Being a website, they don't have very good SEO.
Oh, wait a minute, there's a big problem. The owner, she just died. Dory, they, at our luncheon, they showed her picture. Yeah, dear friend.
They go by different names, Stand Tall.
Now it's called, yeah, now it's Stand Tall Media. I'm sorry, thank you for that. Stand Tall Media. And now what happened was her family has Talk International. Okay, I'm sorry, it is Stand Tall Media. There it is, there you go. Beautiful. I thank you for correcting me on that.
Yes, we have AED though, for the CEDs on this.
You know what? Should? Yeah, they didn't give it to me. They didn't give it to me. They usually, because I don't think about it, they usually